here for a little nighttime edition of Barber on the Bars. Life has been absolutely crazy the last week and a half, and I like to try and record these videos like a week or so before they're going to come out. That way I've got plenty of time to put it together and get it uploaded and deal with all of that stuff. And time has just passed way quicker than expected. So here we are. Got the family to bed and realized I needed gas when my wife and I were out riding earlier, and needed an excuse to go do some riding and thinking on my own and chat with you guys a little bit. So quick update. I don't want it to be the topic by any means. Had my appointment with my cardiologist last week on Wednesday, and things are moving quite rapidly. We're in a heart monitor for a month to monitor heart stuff I don't really understand. Confirmed hole in heart, confirmed surgery will be required to fix it to lower my risk of strokes moving forward. As long as it's repairable and the heart monitor comes back A-OK after the month. So hopefully end of October we'll be getting that scheduled and we can get that taken care of. So tomorrow I have a procedure, which is why I can't do this tomorrow like I really planned on, and going for a nice little ride. So tonight you're just going to go with me to the gas station and ride back home probably. But the procedure tomorrow is kind of well, not the final piece. The heart monitor results will be the final piece, but a big piece to the missing puzzle is whether or not the hole is repairable. So tomorrow I'm going in for some TEE, transesophageal echocardiogram. And basically they're going to do an echocardiogram from inside of me to see if they can get a better look at the hole and to see whether it's repairable or not. So that's kind of been a fun update, I guess. I guess, I talked prior about hoping that I have an answer, and also kind of hoping that I don't have an answer. And I guess I have an answer. It could be worse. It could be better, but it could certainly be a worse answer. And so now we just kind of play this game, and like I said, have an appointment with my cardiologist late in October, and at that point we will either be setting up surgery or we will be taking steps towards a different resolution, which I don't really know what that looks like. But anyways, kind of on the topic of, wow, where did the time go? The last week and a half has been a whirlwind. And kind of the running topic over the last week and a half is, it seems like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. And it's like it's a constant fight just to get things done and moving in the businesses specifically. And it just kind of comes in waves. There'll be months where there's nothing but positive and quick turnarounds and solid work, and it's no fault of anybody or any one individual. Get to replace a windshield on a customer's car because they're saying it was cracked. My mechanic saying it wasn't cracked. I'm just going to replace it, right? Like, that's just what you do as a business owner, to some extent. But what that did was, now we have a new standard of procedure, and we're going to walk around a vehicle and do a 360 video of every car that we touch before we even touch it. Had a customer drop off on a Sunday night, and we knew he was dropping off. He had discussed it with us prior. We were expecting that truck to be there when we arrived in the morning on Monday, and it was there when we arrived on Monday. So we didn't think much of it. There was the ignition lock was broken, and the whole interior of the truck was in disarray. Like, it was just a mess. But we don't judge people's vehicles and their habits. However they keep their car is how they keep their car, and we just work around it as best we can. Well, it turns out that truck had a bed cover on it when it arrived on Sunday night, and it did not have a bed cover on it when the customer arrived to pick it up today. So I pulled up camera footage, and not only did the truck have a bed cover on it, it had an ignition lock that was functioning properly, because somebody stole the whole truck at 5:30 in the morning. Came and stole the truck and then returned it at like 7:50 right before we got there in the morning. So the car was right where we expected it to be, right where he said he was going to leave it. We had recommended leaving it in a different place that's more well lit and more well occupied, but he chose to leave it where he did, and unfortunately, we don't recommend drop-offs overnight, unless we are there to intake it and put it in the shop, because, well, let's be honest, people love an easy target. So that was a fun one today. It's just been a day, and just really a week. Like I said, everything that could go wrong has gone abysmally wrong, and I'm ready for the punches to stop rolling so hard. Ready for a little bit of a reprieve from that, so to speak. But is it just me that experiences that, where it just comes in waves, and you go from everything's cool to the whole world is falling apart right in front of your face, and there's just nothing you can do about it? I bet the audio is going to change dramatically here without the visor closed. But it seems like it goes in waves, and it just. I was sitting there today as I'm trying to put out all of these fires and prepare for tomorrow, where going under some level of anesthesia and will be unavailable entirely. So I'm trying to prep the guys and make sure everything's good to go, and they don't have to mess with anything. And then all of this stuff starts flowing in, and it's just, it gets overwhelming, and at times it drags it out of you. And that's nerve-wracking to deal with, all of the things that go wrong in those moments, in that process. It doesn't feel good to have an unhappy customer. I hate that the customer's truck got stolen. That's wild. To us in general, we've never had a vehicle stolen off of our lot, and hopefully never will again. But it happened today, or Sunday, and we'll be more vigilant about it moving forward. And again, the windshield, well, it happens, and it's a learning lesson for us that we will forever remember now, because it's been painful, or it was painful. And so with all of that comes growth and experience, and I'm grateful for that. But at the same motion, man, what a kick in the pants. It's just kind of been rough. Life has dealt me lots of cards recently that I don't love. I'm not loving, I guess I should say. But I try to be grateful for all of it, because it's all part of the journey. But it's hard when it's just coming in waves like that, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. We've had a bunch of issues with
getting parts delivered on time, so we're missing deadlines for customers. And at the detail shop, I had a guy schedule a job for next week, so I bought materials for it. Fortunately, he paid his deposit or whatever, and then a deer jumps out in front of him this morning on his way to work, and or jumps into the side of him, really. Destroyed the whole side of his car that he was bringing in for paint protection film and ceramic coating. And so he has to cancel, so there's lost income. Fortunately, I've got plenty of time to fill that with work next week. But, it just it just comes, and it all kind of just piles on all at once, it feels like, and it gets really overwhelming. And that's just in life in general. I'm a big proponent or a big supporter of the rule of threes. I think everybody's probably familiar with that. Your dishwasher breaks. Well, that's one. And then the next week, your laundry, your washing machine breaks. Well, that's two. So then I'm just waiting for three. And it comes fairly quickly, to flat tire, picked up a nail on the tire, but it all comes in threes. And what I'm finding in business ownership is the threes are much different. It's different. We're going to take a minute to just appreciate the lighting here at the Quick Trip. I do. Gas station lighting just hits different, and it makes all of these dirty little bugs stand out. If only I knew a guy that could give this thing a bath, huh? But just like the shoemaker's children, the detailer's vehicles are always the filthiest, and the detailer's wife's vehicle is always the dirtiest. Because by the time we get done doing everybody else's, the last thing we want to do is do our own. Which is why I usually just support some other local detailer and pay him to do it for me. And on that front, I had that guy, that detailer, the PPF installer and vinyl installer that was coming to work for me, and it was working out really well. I was assigned to that contract with that business, doing all their motorcycles, and trying to drum up quite a bit of work here so that we're all good and keeping him fed. And while he's commission based, was we build it up to the point that we can get him on a salary at plus commission or some sort of bonus structure, and haven't heard from him. So I've been running the detail shop this week. Last week we spoke. He was planning on going to North Carolina for a few weeks to bail out a shop that he worked for in North Carolina for a brief time, and then he's just gone. I haven't heard from him, and those motorcycles weren't the most lucrative percentage wise, right? But they're numbers, and those numbers get us to that dollar figure where we're making enough in a month that he can just be salary, and instead of getting paid per vehicle that comes in, he's just getting paid no matter what's coming in. And that gets him to that salary that's comfortable for him. And I was really excited about it. So we're kind of back to the drawing boards on that deal. In one instance, I would love to have somebody there working, and in another, that's kind of always been where, if we need money for vacation, or I need money to buy a toy or fix a toy or whatever it is, that's where I go make my money. And it's profitable enough that I'm able to take money from it because there's low overhead. So, on one hand, I think we'll get back to that point where we've got somebody in there full time, and hopefully soon, because it's hard. What he's able to do in an 8-hour work day, I need about 24 hours of work time to get done, because the phone's ringing,
off the hook, and the employees at the other shop need me for something, or I have to put out a fire over there, or deal with, some, business stuff, back end stuff. And so, yesterday I was working, and I went in and I had like 2 hours of work to do. And at 3:00, I still wasn't finished with my 2 hours of work, because I don't just get to disconnect and not answer the phone or deal with people that walk in or send a message, an email, or whatever it is, right? Like, it's just what I have to do. And I'm grateful for that opportunity, but it makes it very hard to do the work that I'm selling. So it's always been a workflow, right? Like, I'll go sell a bunch of work and get the schedule packed, and then I have to go do the work. I love doing the work. But then, while I'm doing the work, I'm so busy doing the work that I've already sold that I can't do any more selling. So then, after a month or whatever that time period is that I've booked up, then I'm back to the drawing boards of, now I got to go sell again. And so then I get to go sell for a week or two, and then I'm back in there working, and I'm not selling anymore. And so it's just always this pattern. It's tough to manage. Thankfully my wife is all in. Like, she offers every day to come up and help with stuff after hours, because it's just more productive when we're out of business hours, because the phone's not ringing off the hook. In an average day, I'm on the phone for probably 2.5 or 3 hours of the day, just on phone calls with customers and or employees, or vendors, or whatever it is. Today I had a very great call with one of my vendors, and we talked about business struggles, and he mentioned that he cleaned house. He had to get rid of everybody because nobody was producing. They were taking their cut, but they weren't producing any results, and it was gonna drive the company into the drain. And I can kind of resonate with that a little bit. Except it's not the employee's fault at the repair shop, but the employees are a big expense. As an employee, I always thought, oh man, they make so much money. They don't even, like, they should pay me more. They should pay me better. Yeah, but what I never accounted for was everything that they have to pay that I don't see. Insurance, just to have me in the building, their insurance policy has to change. Just to have me in the building, they have to pay payroll taxes from their point of view, FICA from their point of view, and then if you have health insurance, they're paying for part of your health insurance, and so all of those benefits that I was like, man, they should pay me better, man. I see it from a different light now, and it's a very eye-opening experience. But the grand point is, when you feel overwhelmed, I believe, and this is my belief, but I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling it. I told my mechanic this afternoon, or this evening after the end of the day, he was kind of trying to make lighthearted of it all, and I appreciate it, because he knows, he understands the business impact that all of these things have, and he deeply cares about it, and so we're able to make it lighthearted after it's done. But I just told him today, I said, man, I'm at less than zero right now, and this week has beat me down, and it's only Wednesday. Thursday I'm going in for that procedure. Friday you guys will be seeing this video, and with any luck, we're going to start next week on a high. I can tell you we're really finishing this week on a high, even though Even though all of the things that went wrong this week, we're still finishing on a very big high, because last week we didn't have any work in the shop to do. It was pretty slim pickings. The phone wasn't ringing. We were just finishing projects that we had already started. And this week we've had 6+ cars in the shop at all times, for diagnostics and repairs, for those diagnostics, or things that were found that were needed for the diagnostics, such as like a full front end rebuild. We had a customer approve a $4,000 ticket. We had a customer approve a $1,200 ticket. We had a customer approve a $1,000 ticket. And all of those things add up quite quickly. And we still have more coming in this week. I think we have two more diags tomorrow, because we usually try to just schedule a couple a day. That way, if there's any walk-ins or anything, we can take care of them as well. But so we have a couple of scheduled vehicles for tomorrow, and then I believe we have a couple scheduled for Friday as well. And we have all of this work that's been approved now from these diags that's sitting there, either waiting on parts or waiting on final assembly, to fix them. And so while it's been a hard week, I'm trying to find the positive in it. And the positive is that the business is making money. And at the end of the day, man, stuff happens. It's gonna happen. You're gonna break something. You're gonna have to replace something. It's all about how you handle it with the customer. Fortunately, unfortunately, I haven't decided yet. The customer that has the windshield replacement needed is a buddy. And that whole job has gone completely wrong from start to finish. Everything that could have gone wrong on it has gone wrong. And, we had a pretty serious discussion the other night, and I was just like, man, listen, like, I can't control these things. We aren't just throwing the parts cannon at the vehicle. We are, we're dealing with the hand we were dealt, right? We're playing the game the way it was dealt to us. And, when we were dealt a bad AC system, we couldn't properly diagnose that there was a hole in a line in addition to a bad compressor that was just sucking air in and leaking all of the Freon. It wasn't until we put the new AC compressor on and got the whole system resealed that we found that there was a hole in a line. Like, there's nothing I could change about that. It added more time, and fortunately the warranty company covered the expenses of the additional parts needed and labor needed. They covered that without issue. So, it didn't really change anything for the customer, except the fact that he was without his car for a few more days. And, it's just, it's been a week. And last week was just rainy and gross, and I didn't even want to be outside. I went and rode Saturday night with some buddies. And I may throw some of that footage in here depending on what this all looks like in the dark. But went riding with some buddies Saturday evening, and it was so cold. I didn't even want to be out in it. Tonight I'm out in a hoodie and shorts, and I think it's like 69 degrees. It's pretty comfortable out here. Saturday night I was shivering. It was like 51 degrees or something like that, with a pretty cool wind. And man, that was a brutal night, but it was fun and it was needed. Wasn't good vlogging content though, necessarily, or good vlogging time, but we're trying to make some time for some riding. Today was actually the first day I got out on my own bike. Like I said, the wife and I went for a quick little jog over to the Cycle Gear to look at helmets because she needs a new one before we go to Arkansas next month, and go ride all the beautiful country out there. And so, we went and did that. I went and tried on some new coats and whatever because I need some new riding gear. Apparently 100 pounds is a big difference. So none of my prior riding gear fits, and so we're trying to get a new riding jacket and maybe some new riding pants so I'm not such a squid anymore. I got to find stuff that's comfortable for me. So that's the big hiccup with it all right now. But yeah, man, like I just, what was one of your struggles this week? What really just wore you down? What defeated you, and how did you overcome it? Because I think that's what matters the most. My overcoming all of this bad is, taking good care of the customer, right? First and foremost. But second, and probably what's most important, is how I keep my composure internally, externally, while I'm at zero, when I'm at that place where it doesn't seem like it's even worth it to keep fighting the fight. How do you maintain yourself, and how do you compose yourself through all of that? Because I think that's what matters more than anything. And really, that was the whole point of this little ride tonight, was what do you do when you're at your lowest? Do you cower down and back down? Do you just give up? Or do you jump in the battle and dive in head first and go even harder than you were going before to try and correct it? That and everybody's different, and everybody's going to handle things differently, and every situation deserves its own reaction and behavior. So I'm just curious, what was something that you battled this week that you overcame, and what did that look like? What did overcoming it require from you? What did you have to do to improve your position, to change that outcome for a positive? My positive for the week is, man, it could be worse. $1,000 windshield, minor in the grand scheme of things. The truck getting stolen, customer was very understanding, understood that he made that decision to leave it overnight and knew the risks that he was taking by leaving it. We pulled up camera footage, and we'll provide that to him for his police filing their police report. And we will, within reason, right, do what we can to make the situation right and get him back to 100%. So, like I said, they were minor in the end, right? But boy, when they're just piling down on you, they sure do feel major. It marks me to zero, like I said, and I'm curious how you handle zero. So thank you guys. If you're still here, I appreciate every view, every like, every comment, every subscription. I'm still new at this. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying it though. It's even if I'm not getting views and I'm not getting subscriptions, I feel better when I get finished with a video. Half of that could be because I'm on my motorcycle, but I truly believe that talking to no one, but speaking your feelings and your thoughts and what's going on in your head is good for everybody. And so I'm excited to continue sharing the health journey and
the business journey and the personal journey. You know, I'm not going to be sharing my children or my wife necessarily on here. You know, it's if for whatever reason I ever do decide to show my face here, it'll just be me. But you know, you guys have allowed me a place, or YouTube allows me a place to go and vent and not make my problems other people's problems, but make my experiences, good, bad, and ugly, you know, out there. That puts it out there for everybody to see and learn and grow from, and that feels good. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. As always, you know, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, whatever it is that you feel empowered to do. I would love to hear about a struggle you had this week, or you know, how you handle those situations that you're faced with. You know, we're all faced with those situations, business owner, not a business owner. You know, I face these same battles as a father. We'll tackle the children this week on a different video. Maybe that'll be next week's topic. You know, but the kids have been a challenge this week as well. And so it's all life, it's all learning. And I appreciate everybody that's hanging out with me and watching and hopefully learning or gaining some sort of insight from it. So thank you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.